Hello everyone, welcome to IS Baba's 60 days rapid revision series for Prelims 2022. This is day 41 and we take up science and tech. And here we are taking up some of the basic physics where UPSC can probably ask a question and where it has asked a question before. So before going to that, we have a glance to the guessworks of the previous 2020 prelims. Friends, here in the 2020 we know that the UPSC has already released the paper, the answer key, and here we have to analyze each and every question so that you can track the examiner's brain. So that is utmost important. That is the one which is going to fetch 70% of your marks in prelims. So here, whenever students ask me about the guessworks, so I give example of some of the questions which are very easy if you take the guesswork and which are very difficult if you go through the knowledge. So that is why that knowledge as well as smartness both are required. Say consider this question, that is with reference to the book Desher Katha written by Sakaram Ganesh Dioskar during the freedom struggle. Consider the following statement. Friends, this book and the freedom fighter is not present in NCRTs, it is not present in Spectrum, and it is neither present in any of the other books. So, I don't know where the question is being picked up, but if you spend some intelligence, so that Dioskar or the Agarkar, Tendulkar, so that Mumbaikar, that comes from Maharashtra name. And here we have a sentence, that is the use of Desh by Dioskar was in specific context of the region of Bengal. So here there is a skew. So some freedom fighter in Maharashtra, he cannot awaken the Bengali people. So if you strike this down, so straight away we will get the answer. And even the UPSC answer key goes with the same. So this is how. Make sure that you will try the logic before you leave that question at least. Okay, so keep this logic as the last resort at least. Then come to next. So going with the analysis of some more questions. So here we got some of the skewed answer keys. Say for example, take the question number 13. So here the Constitution of India provides for judicial review to safeguard the citizens' liberties and to preserve the ideals on which the Constitution is based. So here, overall speaking, this judicial review definition, it sounds reasonable. But here, if you take the UPSC's answer key, the 13th one is D. So that means it is neither first nor the second statements are correct. So here, the Constitution of India defines its basic structure. It is wrong because basic structure is not defined, we leave it off. But here, the judicial review that will not check the philosophical part of the Constitution. It checks only the legal part. So that is why this is also considered as wrong statement. So this is how we have to make sure that we track the examiner's brain. And when examiner asks the same type of question next time, we will be cautious and we will go as per his previous answer keys. So it is all about choice of words and it is all about you tracking those choice of words. That is all prelims. And then come to next here. With the present state of development, artificial intelligence can effectively do which of the following? So here we had that crude guesswork that if such questions come, so we go with all of the above blindly. So here UPSC gave us a lesson saying that not all questions will be amenable to be hit by all of the above option. So 38th one. So here we have B as the option. That is 1, 3 and 4 only. So here just if you see the statements, we will get to know that this statement 5, that is the wireless transmission of electrical energy, is something too extreme to be added into artificial intelligence. Okay, so here probably that artificial intelligence, it can choose among something, it can search among something, it can predict our behavior. So it can do only these things. But it is not a transmission channel and it is neither a communication channel. So if you go with that, so 5 will anyhow be excluded. So if you go with that, so exclude 5, we end up with B as the answer. Then come to next, the 48th one. Which of the following are the reasons or the factors for the exposure to benzene pollution? So again, here we had that crude guesswork that is going for all of the above. Here again, UPSC teaches us a lesson and it says that all of the above is not the answer. And search for 48, we have A as the correct option. That is 1, 2 and 3 only. So here UPSC says that using the varnished wooden furniture or using the products made up of polyurethane, so they don't contribute to the benzene pollution. But however, the automobile exhaust and the tobacco smoke and the wooden burning, so these will contribute. So here the quantity is being searched for. Say for example in the automobile exhaust or in the tobacco smoke or in wooden burning. So enough number of smoke and enough number of carbon dioxide compounds are being emitted to the atmosphere. But by using a varnished wooden furniture or using a polyurethane, so not much of benzene is released. And we cannot say the benzene that is released by using these, it is not amenable for pollution. So pollution requires large quantity. So the using word, you mark it, and next time if the same word comes or if similar statement come, then make sure that you will go with the UPSC's trending. Then come to next, in the context of India, which of the following is or are considered to be the practices of eco-friendly agriculture? And here again, the crop diversification, legume intensification, tensiometer, vertical farming. So if you see that all of the above can be the formidable option, but search for the answer key, UPSC gives A as the option, that is 1, 2 and 3 only. So vertical farming is not an answer key for the UPSC. Now what to do? See, if you search in Google about vertical farming, it says that vertical farming can save 95% of the water that is used for irrigation. So is it not sustainable? But however, UPSC has excluded that. Now what decision you will take during the analysis? Friends, here, even the UPSC people are the human beings and they also commit mistakes. And if I say, so we will go with our conceptual understanding and our basics. Even if the UPSC has excluded vertical farming, we take all of the above as the answer. And our guesswork goes with the very minimum basic. We don't overanalyze the things here in such cases. And this is how you have to analyze various questions. So now the ultimate conclusion with the analysis of the UPSC answer key is that be fixated to the very basic concepts and be fixated to the practical ground reality. So these two mindsets, so they will fetch you the maximum marks. So these are some of the tips for prelims today, and from tomorrow onwards we take up the 2021 questions. Now coming to the first topic, the friction. Friends, here the force, then the pressure, then the volume. So such questions are being asked by UPSC once or the other times, and that is why I have brought some of the concepts. So here UPSC might have asked the question on this in previous years and it might not have, but these are the ones which are applicable for the ground reality, which are applicable for the day-to-day environment. So when you read the NCERTs, apply your brain to the day-to-day environment and read, and that can fetch you maximum hit rates. So whatever you have read, so those things will come to the exam hall only if you apply it to the ground reality. And here we do the same exercise. Say for example the friction force. Always we have learned that friction will act as per the opposite direction of the acting force. Say for example if a body is sliding in this direction, friction, but obvious it will be acting in the opposite direction. So now tell me, when a wheel is rolling, so in what direction the friction will be acting? So now when the wheel is rolling, the friction is acting in the direction of motion of that wheel. Say for example the wheel is moving in this direction, and here the buttons of the wheel, they will press the ground here, and now the friction will act in this direction, and that's why it pushes the wheel forward. So remember, when a wheel is rolling, the friction always acts in the direction of the motion of that wheel. And then the same thing applies to a man walking. So when a man is walking, the frictional force will be acting in the direction of his walk and not in the opposite, because when a man walks, he slides his slippers in the opposite direction. That's why he walks forward. So here the friction should act against the direction of sliding of the slippers, not against the direction of the man's walk. So again, when the man is walking, frictional force, it acts to the direction of his walk. So these are some of the things, the trap questions we can say. So such questions can come often in prelims. So we should be careful, we should be attentive, and we should keep our eyes and ears open while accepting the statements, whether it is right or wrong. Then come to next, the centripetal and centrifugal force. So these are the basic ones. We have studied these. And here we have the centripetal force, where the force is acting at the center point, and the centrifugal force, it is acting away from the center. And if we have a thread that is connected to this body and the center to which the body is rotating, and this thread, it has to compensate between the centripetal and the centrifugal force. And now if the centrifugal force is more, now the thread breaks and the body moves in the direction that is tangential to the circular motion. So if this is the circular motion, in the tangential direction it moves. So this is where our Coriolis force that takes into picture. Say for example, here we have the equator. So we all know that Earth rotates from west to east. And now if a flight has to take off from the equator, so it will not take off vertically, but it will have a tangential effect. That means it takes a bend this way. So this centripetal force, or the cutoff of centripetal force, is one cause for the Coriolis force. So if not the one and only cause, it is one of the causes. Then come to next, the same centripetal and centrifugal force is being used by the civil engineers whenever they build the roads when the road is negotiating a curve. So here we can see the road is negotiating a curve inwards, and the opposite side of the road, the opposite edge of the road to the curve, so that is elevated. So this elevation is because, so here we have the car which has the experience of the centrifugal force. So now the car is negotiating the curve and the car is impacted with the centrifugal force. That means the car is being pushed away from this road. So now there are tires to this car and the mass of the car is also heavy. So the tires, they are providing friction and the mass that is also adding to that friction. And now the car will not ram to this outer surface or outer edge of the road. If both are absent, so the car will ram to this surface. And now to avoid that ramming, so if elevation is made, and now even if the car is a lightweight, and even if the tires are balded, and even if the car is at a greater speed, so now the chances of the car ramming to the outer surface or the outer border of the road is very much less. So this is how the roads are being built. So the same concept applies to the bike rider or a bike racer. So when a bike racer is negotiating a curve, so he will bend towards the curve because to avoid the action of centrifugal force. So the centrifugal force is acting on a car or a bike which is negotiating the curve. And that is why when we sit inside the car and when the car negotiates the curve, we will go and ram to the opposite window of the car because even we are experienced with the centrifugal force. So remember such small questions. And if the UPSC asks a question like when a body is negotiating the curve, so under which force it is impacting? So it is being impacted by the centrifugal force. Then come to next, the surface tension. So this is one more concept. So every liquid on its surface, it has some horizontal force called the surface tension. And this horizontal force, so that is what allows for the small beings and the small objects to float on this. So actually the density of the body of this insect is more than the density of water, but still it is floating because the surface tension. And this surface tension, so that will be applicable in various natural phenomena. Say for example, we have a simple concept, why the hot coffee is tastier than a cold coffee. So it is simple that the surface tension. So as and when we increase the temperature of the coffee, the surface tension decreases. And a coffee which is having less surface tension, that can sneak into every nook and corner of our taste buds and it will give you a pleasant taste. But a cold coffee will be having too much of surface tension. It will not get into your taste buds. It just skims around and floats on your tongue, thereby giving very pale taste. So this is one. And the other one is the movement of water from root to the leaves. So this happens in the xylem. And how it happens? That is basically due to capillary action. So capillary action is one of the causes for the roots to absorb water and minerals and supply it to the leaves. So how that happens? Again due to surface tension. Say for example, I take a beaker with water and if I insert some glass tubes of various diameters, so the one which is having the least diameter will have the maximum stagnated water. So this is the capillary action. And now the lesser the diameter of the xylem tissue, the higher the water will be running in its pipeline. So now the root can manage to reach the water to the leaves. And here when you read the NCERTs, by hearting the definition of surface tension will not make of any use for you. Okay, then come to next, viscosity. So viscosity is the measure of the thickness of a fluid. But here there are some anomalies for this viscosity. Say for example, petrol, kerosene, etc. They have very less viscosity compared to water. So water is having more viscosity compared to your petroleum or kerosene. But when you pour petroleum or kerosene on, say for example on a surface, so they move slowly and the water moves fastly. So why it is so? So although it is having more viscosity, it is flowing faster. So why this anomaly with the water? Because the water's molecules, so they are round in shape. So we know the molecular structure of water. So one big molecule of oxygen and two small molecules of hydrogen. So this somewhere rounds up to the spherical shape of the water molecules. But the molecular structure of a petroleum is a carbon chain. and even the kerosene it's a carbon chain. And this spherical shaped molecule, it can float over one another, it can easily slide over one another, but these chains they can't slide. So that is why even if the viscosity of water is more than kerosene or petroleum, but water slides more fastly because it is having a spherical shape of its molecules, and the molecules of water can slide over one another. So this is how you understand the concepts and learn. Then come to next, the projectile motion. So here also this projectile motion is used in your missile launching, or it is used in the sports, or even for that matter when you throw a stone, you can learn various things regarding the projectile motion. And we know the commonest thing that the angle should be proper. So once the angle is 45 degrees, so then the javelin we launch or the shot put we throw, so that goes to the maximum distance. So the range is directly proportional to the angle here. So is that the only thing? No. The initial speed u is also necessary. So the force that we apply in the initial times, so that is also very much necessary for the projectile to acquire the maximum range. So is that only? No. Even the height at which the projectile is launched is also counted. Say for example, if the same projectile is launched at this height, so obviously it will reach the maximum height given the same initial speed and the same angle of launch. So this is what again makes the difference. Say for example, two sports person whose muscularities are very similar and they apply the same force. But however, if one athlete, if he is taller than the other one, so obviously he will be having an advantage in this, and he will throw the javelin or the shot put to a longer range compared to the shorter ones. So remember the various factors that cause for the projectile motion. Then come to next, the resonance. So the resonance is nothing but a uniformed the frequency and reflection of the sound. Say for example, here we have a wave, and this wave it gets reflected with the same symmetrical manner. And here also the same thing happens. So when the wave is reflected in a symmetrical manner, so we will get a pleasant sound. Say for example, flute. So that works with resonance. Or your Shanghai windpipes. So all those will work with resonance. Why for that matter? When you put your fingers inside your lips and blow it, so at one particular position, so that whistling sound will be the loudest because the resonance, so that will be conducive in that particular position. So now apply all these resonance topics to the day-to-day life. Say for example, why you would love to sing in bathrooms, why you don't love to sing outside, because of resonance. When that sound is uniformly reflected, so your own sound looks pleasant, and now you start singing more and more. Or say for example, when the soldiers are marching, so say for example they are marching on a road and suddenly they come across a bridge, and now they stop marching here, and once the bridge is crossed over, then they will march again. So why they won't march on this bridge? Because soldiers they are wearing the shoes made up of iron sole, and they will make significant sound. And if they make the sound continuously for years together, so here the sound gets resonated between the bridge, and one day bridge will collapse. So that is why, to avoid all these, soldiers they won't march on bridges. So they will walk normally. So this is how various techniques, various technologies, they use a very basic physics. Say for example, C.V. Raman, he was just a BSc graduate, but he came up with a very great invention which even Massachusetts University students couldn't do, because it is all about the brain and the desire that is required, not your post laboratory and others. So they are required, but only after some extent. So at the first, you have to think, and after that, you will experiment. Then come to next, the pressure, volume, and temperature. So these three things, so they will act interdependently, and that is why we had a question in 2021 prelims, that is, if a pressure cooker is there, so what are the determining factors? And on that context, we have to learn all these. Say for example here, if the volume increases, so what will be the effect on the pressure and temperature? So I have a balloon, and without blowing the air, I have to increase its volume. And once I increase its volume, so now the air molecules they have more space to roam, and the pressure decreases. And once the airspace is more, the molecules will not rub around each other. And as they don't rub around each other, so minimum friction is created and minimum temperature will be generated. So once the volume increases, keeping everything else constant, so both temperature and pressure decreases. And then as the temperature increases, what happens? Say for example, I have the same balloon and I heat it here. So once I heat it, so the very law of thermodynamics says that the objects expand on heating. So balloon will expand to some extent, and apart from that, so the molecules will be excited and they start moving. And once they start moving, there will be more mobility of the molecules, and these molecules they start hitting the wall of the balloon. And once they start hitting the wall, the pressure on this balloon increases. Once temperature is increased, so here either volume should increase, or if the volume is not increased, so then the molecules will hit more and more. Then the pressure increases. So if I am heating a balloon, volume will increase on its own. But if I heat a cylinder, so then the pressure increases because the volume of the cylinder will not increase. And then as pressure increases, so now I take the same balloon and I blow air into that so that the pressure increases. So once the pressure is more, and here the more molecules are being added, that means they rub each other more and more. So that will increase the temperature. And then what about the volume? So but obvious, when I am blowing air into this, so here these molecules they will hit the wall and the volume increases. So again we go with the same conceptualization, that is the balloon and the cylinder. So if I blow air into the balloon, so its volume increases. If I blow air into the cylinder, so volume will not increase. So its temperature increases because there is more and more friction between the molecules inside the cylinder. Then come to next, the science behind the jet of plasma. So now we discuss what is a plasma first. Friends, in the basic classes we learned there are three states of matter, that is the solid, liquid and gas. Now there are five states. So that is solid, liquid, gas, and also plasma state and the Bose-Einstein condensate state. So this Bose-Einstein condensate state, this was asked by UPSC mains. Okay, so that is why we remember these. And now coming to the plasma, what is this plasma state? This is the state of matter when a body is heated extremely to a high temperature. And this Bose-Einstein condensate state, it is a state of matter when a body is cooled to the very lowest temperature. And here plasma is the fourth state of matter consisting of electrically charged particles. So here no atoms, only the ions are present. Because of very high temperature, the atoms will collapse. And that occur just about everywhere in the sun's chromosphere. We know that sun is a source of nuclear fusion and high temperature is there, and hence the plasma state exists in the sun's chromosphere. Then it is an ionized gas consisting of approximately equal numbers of positively and negatively charged particles. So here we can say even in the plasma state, the net charge is zero. Then what are plasma jets then? Plasma jets appear as the thin grass-like plasma structures that constantly shoot up from the surface and are then brought down by gravity. So within the sun's surface, they will shoot up and they go down. And the amount of energy and the momentum that these spicules can carry is of fundamental interest in solar and plasma astrophysics. So if they carry some amount of energy, so that indicates the amount of nuclear fusion inside the sun, and that can give various insights to the formation of the stars, the death of the stars, etc. And we know that if we get the information regarding the formation and death of the star, we can also get information on the existence of the black hole. And the process by which plasma is supplied to the solar wind and by which the solar atmosphere is heated to 1,000,000 degrees Celsius still remains a puzzle. So now if we get to study the plasma jets more and more, so we can get more knowledge. So this is all about the science behind the jets of plasma. Then the Nobel Prize in Physics for 2021. So the 2021 Nobel Prize in Physics is awarded with one half jointly to Sukuro Manabe and Klaus Hasselmann, and the other half to Giorgio Parisi for groundbreaking contributions to our understanding of complex physical systems. So what are these complex physical systems? This is more related to the climatic system. And this is the first time the climate scientists have been awarded the Physics Nobel. So mark this first time as important. And then Manabe and Hasselmann. So they were awarded for the work in physical modeling of Earth's climate and quantifying the variability and reliability predicting the global warming. So how global warming occurs. So how these greenhouse gases they will trap. So all these. And they also demonstrated how increase in the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere would increase the global temperatures. so thereby laying the foundations for the current climate models. So whatever models we studied today, the greenhouse gas effect, then the carbon footprint, so all those things, they were modeled by these people for the first time. Then the Parisi, so he was awarded for the discovery of the interplay of disorder and the fluctuations in physical systems from atomic to planetary scales. And he built a deep physical and mathematical model that made it possible to understand the complex systems in fields such as mathematics, biology, the neuroscience, and machine learning. So, here, what is the complex system he built? Say, for example, friends, we take any one system. So, I take the neuroscience, one brain. So, here, whenever there is a change in the thought process, so there will be a change in the enzymes, and whenever the enzymes change, so the ionic content in the brain changes, and thereby the brain starts reacting in a different manner. So, that is the fluctuation of a brain. So, whenever we have a fluctuations inside any system, so there is a disturbance that is coming. So, that disturbance, so it has to be either from the outside or the inside. So, even if there is an inside disturbance, so that is also created by a strong chemical reaction or any others. So, any disturbance or fluctuation will be having a strong cause and it will also be having a strong effect. So, if you control the cause, the effect will also be stopped. So, this is how the system was modeled. So, in crude, we can take it. And then come to next, the Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Bill 2020. So, this is being in the Parliament. So, we'll see some of the clauses of this. The bill proposes the establishment of a National Registry and Registration Authority for clinics and medical professionals serving in the field. So, ultrasonographers and other professionals, so they have to register under this authority. And it will help in maintaining a database of all clinics and medical professionals serving in the field. So, a proper database will be maintained to track and trace these people. Then, state governments will appoint registration authorities for facilitating registration processes, and registration will be valid for 5 years and can be renewed for further 5 years. So, there is no compulsory license given. So, even if the registration is made only for 5 years, and in case of any mishaps or violation of rules and regulations occur, so then the government can revoke the license. So, that is what is happening with the FCRA and the various NGOs right now. And then, coming to more facts, the new authority seeks to regulate and supervise the assisted reproductive technologies and the ART clinics and the ART banks and prevent misuse and adopt safe and ethical practice and so on. Then, the bill proposes the constitution of a national board. So, what does the national board will do? It will set minimum standards for the physical infrastructure to be employed by the clinics and banks. So remember friends, the authority was different and the board is different. So authority that does the registration and board, it sets the rules and regulations. Then it further seeks stringent punishment for those practicing sex selection, then sale of human embryos and others. So now the punishments have been made more stringent so that more deterrence can be there on the people. Then come to next, the Sant missile. So standoff anti-tank missile is an indigenously designed and developed air-to-surface missile. So remember air-to-surface and also the indigenous word. Then missile has been designed and developed by the Research Center Emirates, that is the RCI Hyderabad, in coordination with DRDO. Then the missile is equipped with a state-of-the-art millimeter wave seeker which provides high precision strike capability from a safer distance. So that means this millimeter wave seeker, so it will track the waves in the millimeter range, and with that a very high precision strike capability can be achieved. Then missile can neutralize targets in the range of up to 10 kilometers. So these millimeter waves, they can work only for the short ranges. Although there is precision, so the range will be compromised. So either of them we have to compromise. We discussed that in the 4G, 5G, etc. So how if the wavelength is shorter, so now it can't travel for longer distances. If a wavelength is longer, so the speed will be regulated or will be compromised. And here remember the indigenous, then the surface to air and the millimeter wave seeker and 10 kilometer small range. Then the Indian scientists developed a next generation probiotic. So probiotic means a very helpful bacteria, that is. Now a team of scientists has identified the next generation probiotic bacterium, the Lactobacillus plantarum or the JBC5 from a dairy product that showed great promise in promoting healthy aging. Then it is tested on a model organism called Caenorhabditis elegans. So here this is a free living transparent nematode living in temperate soil environments. So on this nematode, these bacteria are being infected and now the test is going on. And the Lactobacillus plantarum improves the longevity and healthy aging by modulating the antioxidative innate immunity and serotonin signaling pathways in the Caenorhabditis elegans. So that means once this bacteria it enters into the body of this nematode, and here there will be a changes in the antioxidants that are present. So friends, we know antioxidants, they are the major aging and cancer causing agents in the human body, and the innate immunity. So inside immunity will also be changed, and the serotonin pigment. So that also changes. And due to all these changes, the aging can be reduced. And the bacterium demonstrated a 27% increase in the lifespan of the model organism, that is the Caenorhabditis elegans. So the age of this nematode increased by 27%. So that is what the discovery says. Then this was accompanied by the hallmarks of healthy aging by providing improved immunity against pathogenic infections, increased learning abilities, then memory, gut integrity, and oxidative stress tolerance. So along with the increase in the lifespan, this bacteria also gave a boost in terms of the learning ability, memory, and then stress tolerance and others. Then in contrast, it significantly reduced the accumulation of body fat and inflammation. Then the yogurt developed using the probiotic bacterium can promote healthy aging in elderly population and improve longevity. So these are some of the facts regarding the Lactobacillus plantarum. Then come to next, doxing. So Meta's oversight board has suggested Facebook and Instagram to make strict doxing rules. So here what is this doxing? So here doxing is publishing and analyzing others' personal information on the internet with a malicious intent that can reveal the person's real identity, making them victims of harassment and cyber attacks. And the firm highlighted how doxing is used to shame or punish people who would rather stay anonymous because of their controversial beliefs or other types of non-mainstream activities. So just bringing these non-mainstream people into the mainstream and shaming them. That is what doxing means, and doxing can result in emotional distress, loss of employment, and even physical harm or death. So this is a kind of cyber attack, or we can say psycho-emotional attack. Then come to next, Lassa fever. So recently 3 persons diagnosed with Lassa fever in UK, they died, and the cases have been linked to travel to the West African countries. And Lassa fever causing virus is found in West Africa and was first discovered in Lassa, Nigeria. Then the fever is spread by rats and mostly the Metomys rats. So they spread this Lassa fever. Then the death rate associated with this disease is low at around 1%, but the death rate is higher for pregnant women in their third trimester. So during the end of pregnancy, if they are infected with this Lassa virus, so there are more chances of death. Then a person can become infected if they come in contact with the household items or food that is contaminated with the urine or feces of the infected rat. Then it can also spread if a person comes in contact with the 6 persons the bodily fluids. So that is again the mucus, feces and others. Then person to person transmission is more common in healthcare settings, that is inside the hospital. Then the antiviral drug, that is the ribavirin, so seems to be an effective treatment for Lassa fever, and if it is given in the early times, so the cure is more accurate. So remember ribavirin. And then come to next, the bloatware apps. So what is this bloatware apps? So they are being criticized for taking up the storage of the device unnecessarily and affecting the system's battery life and overall performance. So these are the memory consuming cyber attacks. So potentially unwanted programs, and more popularly known as bloatware apps, are needless programs that take a toll on your device's performance. And the device manufacturers introduced these bloatware apps to provide users with additional programs that they might want to use while making money on the way. And gradually these apps, rather than being helpful, ended up in being a headache for the users. And generally these apps that run in the background are hidden, and locating them becomes a very tougher job. And more facts, so there are different types of bloatwares. So that is the utilities. So these types of bloatwares come from manufacturers and third-party developers and are usually preloaded on your device. And this offers added functionality to your device. Say for example gaming apps and others. And the trialwares. So users can experience the app as most of them offer free trial modes in the new device. However, these programs keep on consuming your device's resource even after the trial period is over. Say for example you opened a fast scanner app and now even after deleting that app, so it is taking and consuming some memory. And then adwares. So these types of bloatware typically gets downloaded while downloading the softwares from the internet or by seeing any ad in the internet. So these are some of the facts about the bloatware. Then come to the last part. Friends, technology is one thing wherein every human being is in a race with. Okay. So here in India also you should have a very good state of the art cutting edge technologies, but at the same time the ethics should not be forgotten. So in the name of technology, so the crimes have been committed enormously. So we have to make sure that so amidst of all these technological advancements, so the basic humanity, the basic emotions of human beings, the basic trust is not broken. So we have seen many diversity families, basically from the well-educated backgrounds. So why? Because the technology is being misused, the technology is being abused. So we should make sure that we have the best use of technology and the ethical use of technology. So do it. All the very best. Good luck, friends.